Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening to everyone. I am very happy to welcome all of you back to our journey along the Nurturing Online Course 1 on the ISSSE-SE Education in Human Values program. As you know, we are in Module 3, which started in October 2022. And today we are presenting the 7th session of this module. This is the first session of the year 2023. The title of the session is 3HV, the unity of head, heart, and hands, which is one of the 4 core tenets, the 4 fundamental principles of the program of ISSSE-SE Education in Human Values. In many of the presentations given until now, we have seen the importance of harmonizing our head, heart, and hands before taking decisions in life. And today we are going to study the fundamental principle in depth so that we understand the unity and learn how to put it into practice. The session has got 2 parts. The first part of the session is going to be presented by our dear Suzanne Palermo and George Bebedelis, Vice Director and Director of the Institute of ISSSE-SE Education of South Europe, whom you already know very well. One more time, they are sharing with all of us their sincere commitment with the development and expansion of the philosophy and pedagogy of ISSSE-SE Educare in our European culture, derived from their unwavering faith in the program, their practical knowledge, and their genuine enthusiasm. Good morning, dear Suzanne.
Good morning, dear Elena. Good morning, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you. I'm very happy to see you, to
Yes,
meet
me
you
too.
again today. Good morning, dear George.
Your mic, George.
My mic, yes. Good morning. Yes, good morning. Thank you for this warm welcome, dear Elena, and good morning to everybody. We're very happy to be back. Happy New Year to everyone. It is wonderful to start with this important topic this new year.
Yes, of course. Thank you. We are happy to see you again, George. Now we continue with a little bit more details about the process of the session. At the end of the first part, there will be a little time for questions and answers, followed by a 5-minute break, as usual. After the break, in the second part, we will be taken by our dear Esma Gadzo Bursic into a heartwarming and engaging interactive workshop. Please remember to keep your mics and cameras turned off during the presentations, unless you are invited to turn them on. So let us start now with the first part. Dear Suzanne and George, we are looking forward to listening to you and to be inspired by your experience and clear understanding of this fundamental principle. So, Suzanne, please go ahead.
Thank you, dear Elena, as George said, for this very, very friendly and warm presentation and introduction. And absolutely, as George also said, I would like to join on his words. It is wonderful that we are beginning a new year with this important topic. It is really, really, really very meaningful too that we are doing this. So just allow me 1 second. I will begin to share my screen.
And I will join you a little later. So we'll start.
Yes, of course.
Then I will come back and then we'll close again with Suzanne. So enjoy the session.
Thank you, George. See you later. So hello everyone again, and yes, definitely Happy New Year to everyone. So as Elena was saying, it's wonderful to go over, have this chance today to go over again this incredibly important topic of 3HV, unity of head, heart, and hands. And it is definitely, we have said this also in our team while we were preparing today's session, it is definitely the heart of this program. So today, the first part will be a short review that we will go through together. And I will begin with a story. And this story we have also seen already together, but it is such a meaningful story. I love it very much. I have tested it and experimented with it over the years, and it is very, very impactful. Mostly, this story really tells us why it is so necessary to integrate a human values perspective in education. So you may remember the story is the story of a little boy who finds his way into the family library. And this library is filled with beautiful objects and ancient antique books and very, very important documents that have been handed over to the family during the ages, literally. So the little boy walks in, he's fascinated by what he finds, by what he sees, and he, among which he finds an illustration of the world. Actually, it is a very antique world map. And he picks this map up, and he's so attracted by the colors and by the designs, but he's very small. He doesn't really know what he's looking at. Mostly, he does not understand how precious this world is, how unique the design is, and how rare it is. So he doesn't know the worth of what he is holding in his hands. For him, it is only something to play with. So this is what he does. He folds the world, this world map, into 2 pieces and then 3, then he opens it up again, and then he folds it again, and then he makes a nice little ball out of it, and then he opens it again, and sooner or later, what happens? The world map falls on the floor in pieces. Right then, his father enters the room. And of course, he's very upset because he sees that this priceless world map is now on the floor. And he says to his son, "You have played with the world and have broken it. Now you must put it back together." But of course, the little boy is very innocent. He doesn't really understand what happened, or mostly he doesn't understand how it happened. He was just playing. And he tries and tries, also with the help of his father, to put the pieces back together. But it is impossible to understand, especially for a small boy like him, to understand the connections, to understand how to assemble the pieces. The design is so intricate, and it is just very difficult. And they are both about to lose hope. But just then, a gust of wind opens the window and a breeze comes into the room, and the pieces turn over. And so they see that on the other side of the world, there's another image. And this image is easier even for a small boy to identify. So he starts seeing an eye, and then a nose, and then a mouth. And eventually, what do? They assemble this new puzzle together. And what comes out? An image of a man. They are able to put the image of the man back together. And of course, what do then? They tape it together and they turn it around, and there we have the world again, also in one piece. So this wonderful story stresses how we need to pull the parts together. We need to pull our parts together. We need to find this unity, this integrity, this consistency, this coherence, which the founder of the program has stressed many times is what is lacking in our world today. and we are talking about this, we know unity of thought, word, and deed. So we need to find this unity, this integrity, and recover our parts. And in one word, what does this mean? We need to recover the sense of our humanness. Why are we here? Who are we? What is the meaning, the true deep meaning of our humanness and of humanity? And we have seen many times that the way to do this, and we will see this again over and over also today, the easiest way is to make a habit of taking our thoughts to our heart. And then from there, when the heart approves, take action. So we need to put the parts together to find this unity. And this, while I was preparing this presentation, an experience came back to me that I had many years ago when I was swimming. I love to swim very much. I'm a good swimmer, not an excellent swimmer, but I'm a good swimmer. But something special happened to me that day. And I just remembered it recently. I associated it to this topic, to today's topic. I was swimming and all of a sudden in a pool, and all of a sudden something happened. I realized that there was no effort in what I was doing. I was swimming, everything was happening on its own. I was swimming so smoothly. And I realized later, thinking about this, that everything had been in total perfect sync. It was all synchronized. My movements, my body movements, my head, my mind, my direction, my focus, my intention, everything was perfectly aligned. And this helped me, this made something special happen, because I was no longer even aware to be doing something. It was just going on its own. And I realized the other day that this was really what I would call a perfect unity. And this is why we associate the unity of head, heart, and hand and character education to excellence, because our aim is to achieve this point of excellence. So we need to pull the parts together, because our life is made of relationships, and we need to find the relationships among these parts. And this means, and we have seen this too also together, that we need to bring the outer, which is half part of the circle, half part of our existence, of our lives, to the inner. We need to unite the outer with the inner. And we know that the outer is based on our senses, our mind. It is something we can touch. It implies outer research, and it builds, it cultivates science and knowledge. It equips us. We learn skills through this, and it prepares us for a job. And then we need to unite this with this other part of our living, of our experience, which is the inner dimension of our spiritual heart or soul. This is beyond our senses. We know it is intangible. We cannot touch it. We cannot see it. It implies a deeper sort of inquiry, which we call inner inquiry. It's deeply, directly connected to conscious and wisdom, and this prepares us for life. And of course, when we are able to pull these pieces together, we are very fulfilled. We feel happy and in peace. And so does our world, because we are in relationship, direct relationship with the world we live in. We are an integrated part of this world and with one another. So there is a key tool to all of this process. Alexander Pope said the proper study of mankind is man. So the key tool is self-inquiry. We need to put the pieces together, and this means knowing ourselves. And now I would like to ask George to please deepen this topic and take over. Thank you so much, George.
Thank you very much, Suzanne. And I feel after seeing this beautiful summary, you have said everything and you have put it together so nicely that what more to say? But it is nice that, yes, we will have some time to go through this journey of discovering these parts within us. because very nicely you said that this unity of thoughts, words, and deeds means to recover our parts. So first we have to define, to find what are those parts, and what is the process will make them one and bring us this beautiful smile, make us happy and make also the world happy. Also this story is indeed wonderful. Satya Sai Baba has said this many times, and this is a wonderful story. And this saying of Alexander Pope, when we discover man, then, and we bring balance and unity in man, then the world also is happy. So thank you for this introduction. I will go on. With this topic. Actually, this is, as we already said, this is a foundation of the program, the Satya Sai Education Human Values. Being a spiritual program means that it is founded in the spiritual knowledge of this inner part. This is also a very beautiful picture, 2 parts. We have the mind and the senses with the science, but what is important is to find our true selves and to unify our parts. So this is, as Elena already said, before starting, I would like to say that this is one of the 4 core tenets of Satya Sai education. And these are the topics that we will go through during the 6 next sessions till the Easter break. So it will be very important part of this module. The first core tenet, the fundamental principle, is, as we said, unity of head, heart, and hands. The second is unity of faiths. This will be the next session that we'll have after 2 weeks. Then unity in diversity and sealing on desires. We see that the key word, 3 of these 4 fundamental principles have the word unity. This is the key word, unity. And in order to have unity, we have to search within. And many times, not only once, Satya Sai Baba has emphasized that true education is not related just to the world. True education is that which is related to you and helps you to realize the true meaning of I. So if we want to define very simply what is the aim of Satya Sai education, we will do it with 2 words, know thyself. This is also called self-realization. How can we start in this journey to discover ourselves? Maybe with a saying of Satya Sai Baba. When he asks, who are you? Then very simply, and he gives an answer. You are not 1, but 3. The one you think you are, and this is connected with the body. This is the reality of all of us. When we are asked who you are, then we will describe, mainly we will describe the characteristics of this body. Even the identity card we have, it has a picture of us, so a picture of our body. It describes, it says the name of this body, the time when this body was came in this earth, was born. Sometimes it has the height and other details, but which when you think it is related with the body. So everybody identify themselves with the body. This is the reality of all of us. The one other thing you are, nicely said, and this is connected with the mind, because the mind is all the time goes out, and you will know that the mind all the time has to do with what the others think of us. and we want all the time to be accepted and to have good relations. We are not happy when somebody says something bad about us. So the mind is very, very dependent in the relation with the others. And so it loses the focus. It goes all the time outwards. So we have one more part, the one you really are. This is the true self. And we have here the word Atma. Atma is a Sanskrit word, most of you know, but it is good to keep, because when we do some philosophy, it is important to be familiar with some fundamental terms. So Atma means the real self, the true self, which is something more than the body and the mind, beyond the body and the mind. Another way that Satya Sai Baba has said this thing is when he speaks to his students in the university, says, all of you want to study and to do an MBA. What means MBA? M means mind, B, body, and A, Atma. So it says that the real knowledge is not all this knowledge that we get in the university. Of course, this is important. This is a part, but this is only the half circle. The most important knowledge is to know these three parts and then to bring them together. Bring them together means to be able to have the control of the mind and the body from within. Because often we see that there are some situations when we cannot really master, especially the mind, which is like the wind, like a mad monkey and goes here and there. So yes, he says, master the mind and be a mastermind. Another quotation from Satya Sai Baba: the mere human form is of no use. It is by his pure thoughts and actions that one's humanity is related. Hence, all the studies that are pursued should be related to the body, the mind, and the Atma. Today's education stops with concern for the body and mind without proceeding up to the Atma or spirit or heart. Here, we introduce the word heart because in this topic, we have the unity of hand, head, and heart. And here we see that this word heart must be connected because it is a very general term. When we use. So here, when we, in this program, we speak about the heart, we connect it with this inner self, the true self, the Atma. You can call this Atma also spirit or soul, different terms. So, Satya Sai Baba says, we often speak about education in human values, EHV, and then he makes a wonderful word play. It should not be just EHV, but 3HV. You see, if you turn the other direction, the E, it becomes 3. It is very clever. And these 3 H's, then it is very easy to remember: head, heart, and hands. Head, we understand, is the mind. Hands, also we understand very easily. It's connected with the body. The most important thing, and this will take most of the part of my presentation, it is to stay with the word heart and to try to define the real meaning of this term when we use it in our program as 3HV. So we have, as I said before, this wonderful formula that EHV, Education Human Values, is 3HV, unity of head, heart, and hands. So many beautiful ways to illustrate this. And here I would like to go back to have some philosophical input. Go back to the great philosopher Plato of Greece. I've spoken again about it, but it is important because if you make a study, you will see that the Platonic philosophy and the teachings of Socrates are really in the foundation of Western thought, Western culture. And it is important to go back to him, and especially in this topic, because one fundamental principle of Plato's teachings is exactly what we discussed now. In order to explain some high values like justice, temperance, goodness, beauty, he considers that it is very important to make a proper analysis of the human being, as we do now. Actually, our program is about human values, but in order to be able to speak correctly and to manifest these human values, certain knowledge is necessary. So in the same way, like with Satya Sai Baba, Plato distinguishes three parts in an individual. The lowest, let's say, it is connected with the senses and the desires, and he calls this desires part. Let's say this is the body, connect with the body. Then another part, a little higher, part of feelings, thoughts, the will and emotions, what we can call mind. But the most important thing, the most important part, which also is the aim of his philosophy, to bring it out, is the spiritual part. Now, this spiritual part has a Greek term which is connected with, it's called logistikon, connected with logos, but we can translate it with different terms. It has been translated with the term intellect, but this is also sometimes maybe a little confusing. I think a very nice translation is the word conscience, as already Suzanne mentioned this word, and as we said, the word heart. In another, this analysis is done in a very important dialogue of Plato, which is called the Republic, but there is another one, dialogue, which is called Phaedros, and again there he speaks about this tripartite division of the soul, and he gives a very nice picture, a nice image. And he says that these three parts are like two horses and a charioteer. One horse has a tendency to go down because this chariot, actually, these horses have wings. And the aim of this chariot, if you read this dialogue, Phaedros, the aim of this chariot is to drive and to go to fly high to the sky and to go beyond and to reach the reality which is beyond all this sensible world, this metaphysical reality, which is the fundamental aim. As we said, or we saw also in the presentation that we had from Suzanne with Dante, when we go up and we reach to Paradiso, and we want to go beyond and to find this divine reality and to unite with it. This is also the aim of the philosophy of Plato. But in order to do that, you have to unite these three parts. So at one point, these three parts are not cooperating, because often we have experienced that the body is taking the senses, is taking us outward. It has a lot of desires. The mind also does not obey the charioteer. So the charioteer has a difficult work to do, and we experience not a unity of our parts. We cannot say that our parts are united. And when the parts are not united, of course, we're not in peace, we're not in happiness. So what is required is to somehow to bring some unity and to control the body and the mind. That's why Satya Sai Baba says, body is like a water bubble. Don't think about the body so much. Don't be attached so much with the body and with the desires of the body. It comes and goes. How long the body will last? Mind is like a mad monkey. It goes here and there and has no control. Whatever it sees, it desires. It wants to take it. So don't follow the body, don't follow the mind, then follow the conscience. So this conscience is very, very important. This conscience is actually the heart, the spiritual heart. That's why often when we speak in such as education, human values about the heart, we often add the word spiritual heart and not to connect it with, let's say, the emotional heart. Because if you say just the word heart, everybody can take it in a different way. So we would like here in this presentation to take some time to define and to make very clear what we mean with this spiritual heart. So this is the conscience. And here I would like to make an analysis of the word conscience because it is very important. Conscience comes from Latin conscientia. Con is from Latin cum also, con, and it means with, means also within. And scientia, like science, is knowledge. So what is, if we try to understand what is conscience, is a kind of knowledge which is within. So it is inner wisdom. But also, this word with, it has a meaning also, because this with means that we share with everybody. This is not private knowledge. This is not, this is an objective knowledge which is present to everybody. So we share with everybody this conscience. The conscience of all people will say the same thing. It won't guide differently different people. And the same is in Greek. In Greek, we have the word syneidesis. Syneidesis. Actually, I bring that because this word sin is the same word with con, with the Latin con. Actually, the Latin con comes from this sin and has the same meaning, with or within. And eidesis is also important word because it means knowledge. So it is the same, exactly the same meaning, the same etymology. And I would like to stay a little with the word eidesis, which comes from the word idin, which means to see. From this word is idin comes the word idea or ideal. So the original meaning of idea that we use so often in English, and the word, and then it comes also the word idea. The original word is meaning is that which is seen. Maybe you have heard about this theory of Plato, the Plato's ideas, the ideal world of Plato, which is beyond. This chariot wants to go beyond this sensible world to the ideal world. This word idea in English sometimes is called, is translated form, exactly because the original meaning of idea is that which is seen. So knowledge is something, this wisdom is something that we see so clearly within us. It is an experience, it becomes an experience. So when we see these eternal ideals, then we have, this is an experience in the heart. So we can connect this with the human values. So the human values is not something that we think about. It is not something that it is changing. It is not some values that in one community there are values, some other community has some other values. One time there are some values, and then after 100 years, the values of the society change. It's not this kind of values. The human values are eternal, eternal ideals, which all the time can be seen by conscience, the inner wisdom, or if we say it differently, experienced in the heart. So like this, we have to understand that the heart is this inner center of wisdom where we can experience the human values. This is the proper meaning of the heart. That's why our program says that the head and the hands have to follow the heart, because the heart is the seat of the human values. Another saying which guides us to this direction is of Satya Sai Baba, which makes everything very simple, is the 4 Fs. Follow the master, and then he defines who is the master? The conscience. Face the devil, but what is the devil? It's not something outside. Vices, the negativities within us. Fight to the end, finish the game. So this is the process. In four words, in 4 Fs, we have the whole journey. We start, and the journey starts, this spiritual journey starts by following the conscience, these fundamental aids of the 3 that we discuss. So when we do that, and we get control of mind and body, then the chariot of our soul becomes like this. You see how beautiful? The same chariot. This is another image, and this is much better than the previous one. Here we can experience some unity, harmony, and happiness. The black horse has become brown. It is going also up with the wings, united with the white horse. Here this appetite, you see the translation for this part is appetite, the other is will, and the conscience can be called also reason, but not simple reason, higher reason, spiritual reason, which guides very freely. And here also in this image, you can see it is a lady. It is not necessary to be a man very strong and keep the horses in control, because now the horses are united. They are going together without any effort. So the reason is very important. This word reason actually is a translation of the word logos. And this logos is what Plato uses. Just a moment. Yes, I'm sorry for that. This logos is actually the 3rd part we said, and we translated with conscience, intellect, and heart. Actually, in Plato's word, this word logos is very important. So that's why we see here Augustine, for example, who is a great philosopher and Catholic father, says that the reason and will is emanating from God's divine wisdom. So this inner knowledge, inner wisdom, comes as a spark from the universal divine wisdom, which is all-encompassing. It extends to all acts and movements in the universe. It is directing everything to follow and preserve the cosmic order and to refrain from disturbing it. This word logos comes actually from a great philosopher before Socrates, Heraclitus. I think you have heard about him, who has said, though logos is ever present, yet men are unwise even when they hear it. And though everything is done in accordance with logos, they are unable to have the experience of it. Though logos is common, yet the many live as if they had a wisdom of their own. They are like fools who, though hearing, are deaf. So again, we see here with this word, he speaks about this universal wisdom, this universal consciousness, which is ever present all the time. And there is an ability within the human being, when connected with the spiritual heart, to be in unity with this spiritual consciousness. And then the harmony comes. Everything then flows very naturally, because then this becomes one's own nature without effort from outside. Just also a little thing to connect, because you know, spirituality, philosophy, religion, all is one. And we have this approach in this program. In this program, we don't see any differences. In the opposite, we try to emphasize and to show what is the unity. As I said already, Jordi Our Jordi has presented the unity of religions, and the next topic will be unity of faiths. Then we have unity in diversity. So all the time we try to see the unity. And if we go to Christianity, because recently we celebrated Christmas, how the Gospel of John starts. In the beginning was the Logos. This is the Greek word. It is translated word. This is not correct translation. And the Logos with God, and the Logos was God. So it speaks about this divine consciousness. And then the Logos became flesh and dwelt among us, full of grace and truth. We have beheld his glory, glory of the only Son from the Father. So this Logos was identified with Jesus as the incarnation of Logos, not of the Father, because Jesus was saying, I'm the Son of God. That's why you will hear, at least in our Christian Orthodox Church, often we speak about Jesus as the Logos of God. And with this, I just wanted to underline the importance of this part within us, because this Logos, which is something very, very sacred, is what is this heart. So this heart has to be connected with that. And finally, to go back to Plato and to summarize with this beautiful quotation, because we spoke about bringing the parts together. When in the Republic, Plato speaks about the righteousness, he says that this bringing the parts together is a righteousness. Let's read this quotation. Righteousness is not related with the external activities of man, but its sphere is a person's inner activity. It means not to let the three parts of one's soul to do any job which is not their own. One has to set them in order according to their own function and to become his own master and friend of himself. Again, you see here, he uses the same word with Satya Sai Baba, master. You have to become your own master, but not with any force, with harmony, with unity, and become friend of himself, not to fight, with inner wisdom. He has to unite the three parts of his soul as if they were the three basic keys of an octave, low, high, and middle, and create a harmony out of them and make himself one out of many, self-disciplined and internally attuned. Again, here you see that Plato emphasizes the importance of unity by saying, make himself one. And where can we feel the beauty of the unity and the harmony? In music. That's why Plato compares this unity with the three basic keys of an octave. And here we have a beautiful picture that has been done, and we use it very often in our program, where we see that this unity of three aids, heart, head, and hands, is called in Spanish afinando. Afinando means tuning, to tune these three parts, because our whole being is like an instrument. We have to tune this instrument. But who is the maestro? The maestro is the spiritual heart. Without a maestro, we cannot tune, we cannot play a good song. That's why we have this beautiful picture also. You see here an orchestra. Which is the most important? Everybody is important, of course, in an orchestra. But maestro, the master is the most important. Master is there a little higher than the others and give the orders. Everybody very willingly, very happily follow the master. They unite their abilities with different instruments, and then we can enjoy a beautiful melody. This is actually educare, to make us able to play a beautiful song, because the life is a song. We have to sing it. And so not to stay with just the outer dimension of education, of modern education, as Satya Sai Baba says, modern education turns man into a computer, while educare transforms man into a composer. Then we become composers. We can give beauty with our life in the world. So the final quotation again from Satya Sai, to summarize that happiness, because after all the aim is happiness, of this inner journey. Happiness is the outcome of unity of thoughts, words, and deeds. Every man should strive to achieve unity in thoughts, words, and deeds. That is the hallmark of humanity. This profound truth is proclaimed by the ancient sages and seers. The essence of all philosophy is the triune unity of thoughts, words, and deeds, or head, heart, and hands. In this unity, true happiness can be experienced. So thank you very much for your attention. Now I will ask Suzanne to continue and to close this. We thought to share it like this together. So please, Suzanne.
Thank you, George. Thank you for this wonderful and very deep and inspiring presentation that you shared with us. So I will again share my screen. And I would actually like to link very quickly to what you said, George. One of the most beautiful things you said in this presentation, of course, everything was so uplifting. But just to reconnect to these beautiful words and that are so meaningful, the human values are the eternal ideals seen by conscience and experienced in the heart. I feel that this is so incredibly profound, and we should all, at least I will definitely continue to meditate, reflect on these words so that the true meaning can gradually reveal itself. And as you said so well, that this is the heart of the program, and the heart is connected to conscience, is our spiritual heart, is conscience. So we have planted a seed, we are planting seeds, and we need to understand what is it that we are cultivating. We know, again, this is a little bit of a sum up, of a review. We know that we are cultivating this unity of heart, head, and hand, which leads to a good character. And we know that this builds not only a huge capacity of efficiency, but such a unity that leads to excellence. And that, of course, this means also helping children and ourselves become responsible of what I like to refer to as our threefold potential. Many times talking with kids, I have actually told them all human beings have three powerful tools with which we mold our lives, and gradually elaborate on this until they really understand that they are our thoughts, our words, and our actions. But we know that we need to bring all this out. We need to manifest it. We need to perfect it. And how do we do this? By forming good habits. And how do we form good habits? We have seen this already through repeated actions. So I will not go into these little images that represent many, many ways. There are many ways and many more to help children repeatedly go through this process and imbibe a good, deep understanding. As you see on the right, Marty lacks of this unity. So he needs to find consistency between heart, head, and hand to be able to act and speak with love. Because the intention is to help children cultivate good thoughts and good feelings, to know what is good and goodness, and then eventually, of course, to translate all this into their behavior, into their actions. So we need to practice. We need to practice. We need to watch. And this, since this is something I had not shared with you before, is just an image of a pin. One other idea that we can give to children, we can help them, we can share with them, they can make a pin, they can do many, many things, because what I have seen, we must avoid being boring. So they need to go through this in many different ways. But what happens when we have a group of young adults or teenagers? It can become a little bit more difficult. Now, I am not a teacher, but so I lack, unfortunately, of the possibility of seeing a certain continuity. When I've had workshops, not necessarily they are followed up, because I do not have a class of kids or children's or teenagers that I follow. But I have had this experience, and I also will have in the near future, because Our open space is preparing an exhibition for next May and June with 2 school teachers, and it will be dedicated to human values. And the school teacher who is in charge of this, I am, let's say, coaching them, is an art teacher. So they are translating into art this process that they are living throughout the year. And because of this, and because of the peace forums that I had a chance to participate in, where the organizers would ask us to prepare our workshops in a very flexible, elastic way, because they did not know who would come to see the workshops, who would come to participate. They would send the invitations to many schools and to children. Children were invited that were 7, 8, 9 years old, or maybe 10, 12, and then up to teens. And the teachers would select the workshops according to the abstracts that they would receive. So whatever we brought, we needed to be extremely elastic to be able to adapt the content to these different age groups. And of course, there were also teens. And this gave me an opportunity to really reflect on how to approach this topic with teens. And my experience has been that there are 2 very fundamental things: is the expression to pull yourself together, which they understand. And I use this with the story we saw this morning. And to stress, as I said before, our 3-fold creative potential. And to be able to find ways to offer them these concepts and to offer them signposts. So what is most important to help them become conscious? Because this is the only path that will then connect them to conscience. And many times today, they are not aware of why they do things. They are not conscious. And as they become more aware of themselves, why they do things, why they say things, they can recenter, reconnect, and learn to go within and become self-aware. So the practice at times is definitely self-inquiry, to encourage young people of this age to go within. Why did I say this? Why did I do this? What were my intentions? What are my intentions and my true goal? And how can I see, think, and act more clearly? Help them become conscious and aware of how important it is to pose these questions to oneself and think for themselves, work with themselves. And how do I do this personally? Very quickly, I have chosen, again, to be able to adapt to various age groups, the use of metaphors. But what's important is that the intention is to use them to create a process, because it's very important to be interesting for everyone, for children, and to involve them, and especially for young adults or for teenagers. And I always like to connect to the root meaning of the word interest, because it comes from Latin, inter-esse, means that you are actually inside of what interests you. If I read a book and I like that book, it is because there is something in me, in the book. The book is talking to me. So I'm interested in reading it, in finishing it, and in finding its message. And this is how we need to, the approach we need to have with this age group. So I use the stories you know already. I will not go through them. I use them to create a process. And because the first story we have seen helps them understand that we need to pull ourselves together. How do we do this? Then we have the missing piece that works on himself. We need to go in and work on ourselves until these 3 parts, head, heart, and hand, are unified. And we do find a point of excellence. And the third story we have also seen together is the carrot seed, which stresses that we can reach our goal, but we need to persevere. We need to be determined and dedicated and not give up. And these are bookmarks that I had made for the Peace Forum that were given out at the end as a reminder, because it went through the whole process. We went through the process, but then at the end, they were given these to take home. And on one side, it says in Italian, peace is like a medal, like a coin, because it has 2 faces. One face is the world, the other face is ourselves. Because of course, this forum was related, dedicated to peace. And then on the other side, it says, if I am happy and in peace, so is the world. And if the world is happy and in peace, so am I. So peace is created together, and it begins with me. And then metaphors are important and symbols are important. So of course, with this age group and also with younger children, I have used symbols because we remember them. We remember the image. So the head, magnifying glass. This is to stress the need to go closer, to grasp, to open the mind, to expand understanding, to encourage them to do this. And many, many times I have used these beautiful pictures that you may know of butterfly leaves, butterfly wings, because again, it is to encourage them to go closer, to go deeper, to realize that we see something, but there's much more we can find if we go closer. Of course, this means also into ourselves, because this photographer had discovered in each butterfly wing all the letters of the alphabet and the numbers. So, and then we have heart, the key. This invites us to go deeper, to grasp the real truth, foster a dialogue with conscience. And the mirror for the hands. That reminds us to watch ourselves, to reflect, to build conscious actions. Of course, good nourishment, we spoke about culture. We need to inspire them with good stories and definitely help them pick up reading, because kids do not read so much today, because reading on one hand helps them create an intimate space with themselves and go within, and the other hand, good reading nourishes the spirit. And of course, also help them with creative service projects, because this creates commitment and fosters consistency. So this is the final slide. It is, of course, all of this is a step-by-step process that we need to follow. And on the left, you see this beautiful structure. This is actually something that the kids that are preparing the exhibition for next May and June are preparing. They are working on the stepway through values towards their goal, and each of them is selecting the steps, which are the values we have to follow to reach our goal. And they have translated what was a worksheet into 3 dimensions. So I'm looking forward to see what they will bring to the exhibition. And just to finish like this with this age group, we have many times stressed, of course, head, practically think positive. Everything begins with a thought. And, oops, I'm sorry, this is going back. And they can work with affirmations. Difficult moments help me become stronger. I trust my capacities. I have self-confidence. And then, of course, the heart, go within. And I stress very much by picking a value. And the hands, watch, experiment, inquire, learn, and know yourself. Just to finish, the schools that are preparing the exhibition for next May, June, in all there are about 350 children or kids. And what makes me very happy is that in this process, they have started already months ago, and they are continuing to do so, picking values. They have made their values, they have spoken about them, they are working with them, and the teachers, the children, the students, and the parents are all picking values. So I feel that this is a very simple step, but it is fundamental, because they are beginning to think about values, to consider them, to go within and to ask themselves, what are these values? Why are we working with values? So, and of course, how these values need to be brought forth, and how important it is to unite our thoughts with our heart, which is where values reside, and bring them out in our lives. So thank you very much for all this possibility of sharing this. And I see that we went a little overboard with the time. I'm very sorry.
Hello.
Hello, dear Elena.
Hello again.
I'm
Well,
sorry, I went overboard with the time. I notice now.
oh, well, down, no problem. I think that all that you have shared is so inspiring, and it's a practical way of really understanding that all this is not only philosophy or theoretical knowledge, but it is practical knowledge, and everyone can really adapt and practice in everywhere and everyday life and with everybody. So this is a very important part too. Suzanne, thank you very much.
Thank you, dear Elena.
Really, really inspiring. And well, thank you to all of you, to both of you, Suzanne and George, for all you have shared with us in this first part of the session. Also, George, you have shared really very important understanding of what the heart, the spiritual heart, really is. So this is really nurturing. And now we would like to invite you to use the chat box if you have any questions for Suzanne and George, even if it's a little bit, we went a little bit in time, but maybe we can have 5 minutes to listen or to hear some question. So is there anything? A ver. Okay. So I see Jordi has immediately sent me a question, Jordi. So why don't you open your camera and ask it yourself, dear Jordi? Can you ask your question with your camera and your mic open?
With pleasure, with pleasure, Elena. Thank you very much. Thank you, all of you. It's been a very interesting presentation. Very quickly, I just have a doubt. I remember when I was young, I was a young lad, and my beloved would approach me, you know, my heart would start pumping, and that was my heart. So youth especially, but most people who associate the heart with emotions, with desires. And so there is isn't there a conflict between this and the conscience that you, George, were speaking about, which is something different? Could you expound a little more on this? Thanks.
Thank you very much for this question, because this is the reason why I wanted to take a little more time to speak about this term heart and the real meaning that we use. And it was not only your experience, it was my experience also when I was young, and everybody's, that when we have something in our life that can be, as you say, a desire, a strong impulse in this, then we connect this with the heart. But here we would like to disconnect the word heart with this part, the emotional part. And it is very important to keep this in mind, not to make a confusion, because we often say, even in our program, we say to our students, follow your heart. But if we don't clarify what we mean, follow your heart, what is this heart, then maybe we will do the opposite. Because you saw in the image, there are these two horses, this is charioteer. If the heart is connected with the horse, let's say, then we will reach the opposite result. When we say to the students, follow the heart, means follow this inner wisdom. And that's why I find very appropriate word, the word conscience, which is also used by Satya Sai Baba. And thank you for this question. Exactly as you, Jordi, and many other people, I was also confused. That's why during my study of the program and of the spiritual teachings and the philosophy, I tried to clarify and to make clear for myself first, what is this heart? then for me it makes much more meaning, and I understand the real impact of this formula 3HV, and that it is a much more profound process. It is not this heart that is pumping when you have some impulse to desire, but it is something very deep.
Thank you.
Would like to say something on that?
Yeah, well, I've been thinking about the same problem, you know, at the same time putting the question, I was putting it to myself. And I think it's a language problem. The language is insufficient, especially when we get to spiritual terms. We don't have many, and they're not clear. Everything is a bit fuzzy. So just people have to be very clear about whether they are talking about the organic, ever-changing, ever-adapting to situations, heart, or the stable, steady, permanently loving seat of values. The seat of values, the seat of universal wisdom, they are so different.
Of the eternal ideals. This is also a very nice word, really.
Yes.
So I think we have gone already more already for the program, so maybe we don't have time. Anyhow, we'll have the opportunity, all the participants, to discuss on this during our workshop with Esma, which will bring again the topic there, and we'll have the opportunity to develop a little more. Is there another question? Yes. You're right. Again, it is, I would like to explain very quickly. It is a mind, it is a thing of term. Maybe it will be better to say the three parts of the individual being. The use of the word soul, three parts of the soul, is used in this point as a human personality, let's say. It is not, because sometimes also the word soul is not very clear, especially when you read also the philosophy, you will see that even the word soul is not used all the time with the same meaning. Here, the word soul, when I spoke about the three parts of the soul, means the three parts of the human being. Take it like this. And the higher soul is what sometimes when we say soul, we say the heart. But sometimes the same word can have a different meaning. So don't be confused. Just keep in mind, take it out if you don't want the word soul. The three parts, that's also Satya Sai Baba spoke. I just wanted to connect also with the saying of Satya Sai, and also with this fundamental principle of 3Hs that we have in the Human Values Program. The hands is connected with the lower part, the head, and the heart. These three parts.
I am not confused at all.
Sometimes you are not, but maybe I'm not. I'm also confused, and many people are confused. Because Jordi said is very true, that when you start and speak about philosophy and spirituality, with the terms there is, and we have to take more time. Now I would say that it is, we can close the session, we can keep the essence, what we heard, and then to have 5 minutes break, isn't it, Elena? Okay. And then we have the chance to a little to discuss on that, because all these topics are not very clear. are not, and it takes time for all of us. First, for all of us to clarify, but it is important to do this inner inquiry. And these beautiful questions, it is when, how the wisdom starts when you have questions. This is true. So I will have the chance to discuss a little more the second session.
Okay, so then we will come back. We'll have a break now of 5 minutes, and we'll come back at 11:17. Have a nice break. Hello again. Welcome back from our little break. Now we are going to follow the session with this interactive workshop. As I told you at the beginning of the session, we are going to have again the wonderful opportunity to be guided into the workshop by our dear teacher, Esma Gadzo Bursic, who was born in Sarajevo and lives in Croatia now. As you have already met Esma in previous sessions of this course, I will just remind you that she has been a teacher for more than 36 years at high school level in the field of vocational education, with teenagers from 14 to 18 years old. When I asked her yesterday what has always made her keep so much enthusiasm in her teaching career, she said, the feeling of joy and love when I help my students to understand that they are far more than what they think, and when I see the shine in their eyes. So now I'm going to invite Esma to open her camera and mic and help us understand and feel the same as her students. Good morning, dear Esma.
Good morning, dear Elena. Thank you for the sweet introduction. And good morning, everyone, and Happy New Year. And thank George and Suzanne for beautiful presentation. I'm always speechless after looking what you have done, especially Suzanne. I can never stop, be amazed with your creativity. Thank you for that. Well, I hope this workshop will help us all to tune in. You remember George's affinando image, to tune in using all 5 teaching techniques which help us to become composers instead of computers. So I will share my workshop now. As you surely know, this is the workshop of unity of head, heart, and hands. And the aim of the workshop is to realize the importance of the unity of head, heart, and hands, and see what the fundamental edge is, and also very important to become aware of the obstacles. And before we start, I would like you to hear a beautiful song, which is very familiar to my generation, but even the young ones, if you're not familiar with it, I believe it will touch your heart. It's deep, profound with meaning. Okay. Let us focus a little bit on the beautiful lyrics of this song. For me, it's deeply spiritual song. Look at this first line. I want to live. I want to give. What does it mean to live? According to Satyasai, the founder of this program, life itself is love. Love and life are not two, but one, he says. Love is the very nature of life. And what is the nature of love? Giving. Love is giving and forgiving. Isn't this the essence of Satyasai education of human values? To live and give. In the end of life, nothing matters but how much love you have given to whole creation. Then the next line is, I've been a miner for a heart of gold. What does miner do? He digs deep to find the treasure and bring it out. And another one that I extracted is, I'm getting old, keep me searching for a heart of gold, meaning that this is a lifelong process. And what is this heart of gold? I found beautiful words of Ramana Maharshi, which deeply touched my heart. He explained it so nicely, so clearly, so concisely, and it's all up to the point. I will read. Call it by any name, God, self, the heart, or the seat of consciousness. It is all the same. The point to be grasped is this: that heart means the very core of one's being, the center, without which there is nothing whatsoever. So the heart of gold is the seat of universal consciousness, which is represented as our own conscious, which in everyday life means really practicing and living human values. So these human values are the treasure we are looking for. And that's why the heart is not physical, it is spiritual. And what is the role of the heart in everyday life? What does it mean in practice? To follow your conscience, to listen to your heart of gold. That means that every thought that comes to your mind, that's conceived in the mind, should be approved by the heart, and only then put into practice by the hands. Well, we are all made of body, mind, and soul, but let us ask ourselves, to what do we pay attention more in everyday life? Let us ponder for a second. What do we let be in charge in everyday life? Our body, or our mind, or our heart of gold? And how important is it to listen to our heart and achieve unity of heart, head, and hands? It's extremely important, because when head, heart, and hands are in line, we are in touch with our inner wisdom. That, of course, makes us happy and fulfilled. And then we can achieve anything. And one of the best examples is Mahatma Gandhi, a great soul. He's an example of someone who would have given his life for his moral principles. When we find enough courage as he did, enough focus, enough self-discipline, enough determination to listen to our heart and let us guide us through our life, then we can become a man of integrity as he did. When I looked in the dictionary, integrity means having high moral principles, but not only that, even better explanation of the meaning is to be whole and undivided. So he is connected with his inner being, and that's why he could do unimaginable things at the time, help his nation to get liberated from the greatest empire at the time. There are many ways that can help us to reach our heart of gold, our spiritual heart, our soul. You can call it any name. One of them is a prayer. And while doing this workshop, preparing this workshop, I came across this beautiful prayer of a little girl in the book, Discovering the Heart of Teaching by Lorraine Burroughs. And we can say it together now. May there be unity in my thoughts, words, and deeds. Whatever is in the heart should be translated into truthful speech and selfless action. And now I'm going to tell you the story. There was a teacher who had about 50 students, all of them very diligent, but they not only yearned for his praise, but also secretly longed for his daughter's hand. She was very beautiful and was a dream of each one of them. Once he told them, even a blind man can see where your eyes are directed. Therefore, I'm telling you, I will give my daughter's hand the one she chooses. And this is my advice. Take some valuable piece of jewelry from your home without asking your parents and bring it to my daughter. Then she will choose. The next day, all of them but one brought the jewelry. He told to his teacher, with the due respect, sir, yesterday you gave us advice which does not comply with what you have taught us all these years. I couldn't find any sense in it. How can I cheat my parents and expect to raise my children as honest and loyal people? His daughter liked his answer best and didn't pay any attention to the numerous pieces of jewelry and chose him as her bridegroom. Her father totally approved, as this was only a test for his students. Let it sink in you. And now we are going to divide in breakout rooms, and the questions for the breakout rooms are: what is this heart of gold, and where do we have to search for it? And the second one, very important one as well, what are the obstacles that prevent us to follow our heart? You have 20 minutes for this, and we will hear each other and see each other in 20 minutes. Enjoy your discussion and self-observation. Welcome back. I hope you enjoyed sharing your opinion and feelings and experience. We would love to hear your reports, but unfortunately, due to lack of time, we are not going to do it orally now, but as it is very important to hear feedback from you and give you a chance to clarify something, please write to us via email and we will get back to you. This is vital topic, unity of head, heart and hands, very important for Satya Sai education and human values. So maybe it is even a better idea to write about it, so everyone has a chance to express oneself. You know our email. And now I would like you to close your cameras and just for a second look at the image in front of you. And we will do a very short silent sitting. Okay, and mics. Take a deep breath. Imagine you are sitting on top of the mountain, looking at this sunlight. Inhale, and while inhaling, let the body relax and imagine this sunlight is getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, and it's embracing all of you. Look inside of yourself. Look for the heart of gold. Look, it's the same light. Feel this light within you, being a part of this universal light. Just feel it and stay in that state for a minute or two. Inhale once again and exhale and slowly come back and let this light be the highest authority in our everyday life. Thank you. Elena, can you take over, please?
Yes, I would like to close now the session. Before closing the session, we would like to ask Suzanne and George to say a few words.
Yeah, I would like also to invite you to open your cameras now. It is nice to see each other, even for a while. Unfortunately, we didn't have the chance to discuss and to share the opinions, but this is also another way to stay within, to Esma for taking us to this trip to the heart of gold. So yes, if I would like to say these few words so we can close the session. It is already very inspiring to think, to reflect on this inner search and to share these deep thoughts with each other. And as more we do that, so the more this knowledge, this inner wisdom rises within us. And I want to say, when I was young, I loved this song. This is a song of Neil Young. He's such a wonderful musician, very humble, very simple with his guitar and harmonica. And maybe while I was singing with him, because the song sometimes is a kind of prayer, and we can pray by singing. So I think also his song is a prayer to find the heart of God. So without knowing, actually I was doing the same. And now after many years, I can say that I'm very happy because in this journey of life, I can say I have found, not experienced always, but now I know where this heart of gold is. I know where I have to search. And of course, I suppose like many of you, sometimes, yes, I have experienced this golden light within, which gives happiness, freedom, peace, what we really want from life. So I think it was so beautiful to bring this song in our today's session. And through this, maybe more than anything else that we shared, to remind ourselves about this heart of gold existing within everyone. When we discover this, we unite with ourselves, we unite with everybody, we unite with the universe, and then we achieve the ultimate goal, which is to be one after all. So thank you very much for being again with us together in this journey, which is going on, and we have much more to share. So Suzanne, please.
Thank you, George, Elena. Thank you, dear Esma, for this wonderful workshop and truly inspiring. You managed to find the words to express what we were saying before, what we understand in our heart, but it's so difficult to find the right words, but you really managed, dear Esma, to find the right words. So thank you so much. And as George was saying, and before I will just quickly reconnect to the use of symbols. So the heart of gold is such a powerful symbol. And when Jordi was asking about what can we tell or how can we help kids or children or students understand the difference, this is a wonderful symbol to use. I have many times used the symbol of a calm lake, because a calm lake does not have any ripples or movement of waves. So this helps us all understand where we are connecting to. But what I'd like to add is that it is really a question of experience. We need to trust that our lives will give us this experience. And I feel that our role is to nourish, to give the information. And then one day this experience will happen on its own. We cannot force it to happen, but it will happen. And just very quickly, when I was like 20 years old, I remember talking once with my grandmother, and she was actually talking to me, and I was listening to her, and I felt this deep, strong connection with her. And only later, maybe an hour later, I thought, what was that? And I said to myself, and then told my parents and my sisters, I think that for the first time I have experienced compassion. So this is just to say that we cannot force experience to happen. It happens when it has to happen. So, and to end, just stress that practice makes perfect. So we need to insist and go on, and when time is right, things happen. And this will be true also for all of the students and children. It will happen to them, for them too. So thank you so much.
So thank you again.
Maybe if somebody wants to say something,
Yes, it would be great.
Somebody of you would like also to share a thought, and you would like to express something from your heart of gold.
So now, yes, I would like to say that as we have been learning how to be agriculture, we have to learn how to be gardeners and cultivate our character. Now we have to become also miners and know exactly what to do inside of us. This is an interesting adventure, very important. So we will all be miners now. And then because of this, we have shining eyes, as Esma said in her students. She likes watching the shine in their eyes. And so we are now with these shining eyes because we are happy to know that the golden heart is in us. And then when we are in silence and breathing consciously, then we meet this heart, and it's a wonderful experience. So with this important discovery, we are going to then meet again on Saturday, the 28th of January, in 2 weeks, with the topic of the unity of faiths, which is the second core tenet or principle or fundamental principle of Satya Sai education. And to close this session, we are going to listen again to Neil Young's song, The Heart of Gold. Thank you. Bye-bye to everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Bye-bye to everyone.